Hello, everybody, and welcome to this conversation today. I am Veena Kanke, the Director of Grants and Partnerships, and I have Jill LaLonde, who is the Executive Director of OneVillage Partners. She is joining us from Minneapolis. Hello, Jill, how are you?
Hi, Veena. I'm well, thanks. How are you?
Good. So we have been chatting for a long time before we started this recording. But we're going to share some of those tidbits with all of you. And Jill, I believe you have a presentation to share with us.
I do. Yeah. Let me get that up. And thank you so much for having me today. I'm very excited to talk about our Nurturing Opportunities for Women program in more depth. So I appreciate the opportunity to do that. Can you see my slides okay, Veena?
Yes. Yes.
Great. So at OneVillage Partners, we activate the power of communities in rural Sierra Leone to overcome poverty-related challenges. And so our mission is to catalyze community-led transformation. And really ineffective governance at the national and local levels limits Sierra Leoneans' ability to access basic needs and opportunities to thrive. And so a few statistics: 44% of the population lives in multidimensional poverty. 2 million people are chronically hungry, and 1 in 10 children die before their 5th birthday. So these challenges stem from the systemic and complex legacies of the global slave trade, colonialism, a 10-year civil war, Ebola, COVID. There are so many complexities here. And so in partnership with communities, we have designed a bottom-up approach that results in new and improved facilities like schools and sanitation systems, and also enhanced women's leadership and participation in economic opportunities. So our programs really work together to build inclusive leadership, social cohesion, gender equity, and resilience to improve well-being, empower civil society, and also engage local government, so the results of the program can be sustained for many years to come. And so the Nurturing Opportunities for Women program, it really came about because traditional financial literacy programs often assume too high a level of literacy, which then in effect excludes illiterate or uneducated women who would benefit the most from such trainings. And so in our home district of Kailahun, 61% of women have had no formal education, and only 29% are considered literate. And so unfortunately, opportunities to learn productive skills and bring women to the forefront in decision-making mostly do not exist in Sierra Leone. And so the NOW program is an entirely picture-based curriculum to equip women with life skills and community development tools so they can take control of their financial position in their household, they can open a business, and they can engage in civic life in their communities. And currently the program has 3 phases, which I'm going to review briefly here. The first phase is focused on strengthening household finances, and this empowers participants with financial planning, decision-making, and public speaking skills. And so participants are trained on basic financial principles like tools for saving and tracking their income, communication skills to achieve personal financial goals and those within their household. And the curriculum is entirely picture-based, so learning is accessible to all, regardless of literacy level. And at key points in the program, financial decision-making is discussed with husbands and male family members, with the aim of shifting beliefs about gender roles in the home and community. So really going on just bringing forward the skills for women, but also shifting gender norms within the household and community. The second phase of our Nurturing Opportunities for Women program is focusing on business skills. And this was put together based on exact requests from participants in the first phase of the program who said they want to apply their financial literacy skills to running a successful business. And so in this phase of the program, participants learn to actively problem solve and learn the tools necessary to develop a successful business. They learn how to increase their profit and how to confidently communicate their business ideas. And then just this year, so 2021, we were very excited to pilot a third phase of the program. This was again developed because of participant feedback and request. And participants said, okay, now I have learned some financial literacy skills. I've learned how to set up and get my business going, but my business is in agriculture. So can you help us also to to have better agricultural products and to really enhance our profits from our agricultural businesses. And so in this group, participants form savings groups and they apply all of their previous learnings to their work in agriculture. So they are getting experience in activity planning, agronomy, value chain addition, so that they can have additional food security and income for their families. And so this pilot is currently ongoing with 173 participants in 6 communities. And a few results so far that I'm very excited about. 95% of graduates report having increased control over their household finances, which is huge. 87% increase in women speaking in public after completing the program, and a 200% increase in women who have an emergency savings fund after completing the program. And I will end with a quick quote from one of our now participants in LaLonde, Matu Vandi, who said, "OneVillage Partners work has taught me a very big lesson that speaking in public or interacting with other people within the society is not qualified by the level of one's education, but rather through dedication, commitment, and perseverance."
Wonderful. Wonderful, Jill. Thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. Your presentation brought out so many words and terms that are so deeply rooted in Together Women Rise. So I hope you will permit me this indulgence. So Together Women Rise, formerly Dining for Women, was founded by Marsha Wallace and Bob Collins in Greenville, South Carolina. We call ourselves the upstate of South Carolina, and this is the land of the Cherokee. South Carolina has a rich history. People from all over the world have come here on their own free will, but we also have people who have come to South Carolina against their will. And the connection to Sierra Leone and to OneVillage Partners and your communities is that so many people who live in South Carolina can trace their histories back to West Africa and all that it brings. I mean, the Gullah Geechee people of the Sea Islands in South Carolina, as well as Georgia and Florida. I do not want to claim all of South Carolina and Greenville, South Carolina for Together Women Rise. We have chapters across the country. We have more than 450 chapters, and they're all over. But I hope that some of our Rise members will come and visit us here. Maybe visit Sierra Leone someday, Jill, and enjoy this community and this connections that we all seem to have. So tell us a little bit more about all these cultural connections.
Yeah, so actually Sierra Leone is home to Bunce Island, which is one of, if not like the most important site for the slave trade in West Africa. And so Sierra Leoneans and others from West Africa were gathered on Bunce Island before they were then shipped en masse to North America. So there is this very direct connection between Sierra Leone and South Carolina, where a lot of these slaves then wound up. And then Freetown, which is the capital of Sierra Leone, is called Freetown because it was home for freed slaves. And so after the abolition of slavery, and a lot of countries, including the US, were sending slaves back to quote unquote, where they came from. And Freetown was a place where many, many former slaves resettled in West Africa. And so there's this very complex and long-standing legacy of connection between the two geographies. Absolutely.
And this can be enjoyed if you come and visit Charleston and the Sea Islands and the Gullah Geechee people. And I hope all of you do that. So Jill, tell us more about this community-based program. You know, one of the pillars of RISE is community building. The picture-based programming that you have, it's so fascinating. Tell us more about it.
Yeah, thanks, Veena. So the picture-based piece of the program is important for, a lot of reasons. One, the most obvious is that women don't have to have access to formal education to be able to gain the skills needed to track financials and to run a successful business. And so that's a really key piece. And honestly, this gets really to the basics. The first lesson in the NOW program is how to hold a pencil. So many of the women who participate have never been to school. And actually, in fact, 3/4 of the population in Sierra Leone drops out of primary school before completing. And so this is a huge issue beyond just financial literacy. But for women, this is kind of a first step into learning financials without having to go through all of the formal education system, but also in gaining confidence. And so because many women haven't had the opportunity to have any formal education, they often don't feel like they have anything important to say, or that their views or opinions shouldn't even be spoken because nobody will listen and nobody will care. And so this gives women also the confidence to start using their voice, to see that they have so much value that they can share that value with their families and communities. And then, by kind of the next tier of impact from that is that their communities see this happen, their children see this happen. And so it's really creating this knock-on impact and reaching broader gender equity in the community over time.
Mm-hmm. So honing in on what's happening at the family level, we've seen this in multiple programs and projects that we have funded, that the minute you empower women to kind of make their own decisions and have control over some finances and decision making, that family dynamics change. You were talking about that father and his daughter. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, so I was telling you a story that I had heard about a father who had taken his young child to the market and was being made fun of by some of his friends and neighbors about, why is he caring for the child? Like, that's a woman's work. And he said, I have learned through the Now program that I need to contribute, and that gender roles do not need to be as we are used to them being. And that in fact, everyone in the family can and should contribute to the well-being of the family. And so I love that story because he really was, taking ownership over doing something different, and then also setting an example for others in the community that, oh, maybe we can think about this a little bit differently. Maybe there's a different way to do things. And so really, it's really important that men are part of the discussion around gender equity. And as part of the program, and one of the things that is most unique about this is that men and male family members are brought into the program at various points, very intentionally. So they are learning what their wives or female family members are learning, and they understand it, and they understand how it can benefit the whole family, because we want them to be comfortable with that so that they can then give women the space and opportunity to use those skills and not squander those skills by feeling like there might be competition or that they're being challenged in some way. And so we have seen that be a very effective piece of the program to making sure that men feel involved and included.
Absolutely. So the women must be taking this and moving on in terms of being role models for their children and for other community members. How wonderful that once men get over their initial hangups, in the end, it is wealth that is coming into the family, assets that the community and the family are building. So broadening out to the community and Sierra Leone at large, where is the COVID pandemic? I mean, how is it impacting the communities you work in?
Yeah, so COVID has impacted the communities in many different ways and in different ways over time. And so at the start of the pandemic last year, the country shut down almost entirely. So they shut down international borders and also local district borders. And so the result of that was that COVID stopped pretty much in its tracks in Sierra Leone, and we didn't see a huge health crisis materialize like it did in many other parts of the world. However, because of disruptions on imports and exports and being able to move goods within the country, the price of staple foods and goods has gone up considerably. And when, the majority of the rural population where we work is making less than $1.90 a day, that's really significant. I mean, if you have even a slight increase in the price of rice or the price of fuel, that can really make or break your family and what you're able to consume and what you're able to purchase on the market. And so that's what we saw earlier on with COVID. And now more recently, unfortunately, in the past month and a half or so, there has been an uptick, and it's kind of a third wave of COVID in Sierra Leone caused by the Delta variant. And we're watching it really closely because it's incredibly concerning. I know at the start of the pandemic, there were 3 ventilators in the entire country. And so in a country that has such limited health infrastructure, the prevention piece is even more important. Vaccines are very, very limited. It's less than 1% of the population has been vaccinated in Sierra Leone. So that doesn't seem to be a short-term solution to this challenge. It's really about prevention and making sure that people are staying safe and healthy, because if people are severely critically ill, it's very hard for them to get the treatment that they need.
Oh my. Well, um, I wanted to thank you for being here in this conversation with me. Um, you are building a community. There are all these connections that Sierra Leone and your project has with the state of South Carolina. I hope one day you will visit us in South Carolina. But before that, we are recording this in August. In September, you should be receiving a lot of invitations to visit chapters. Maybe it'll be by Zoom. But our chapters and members are going to love to have you in their midst. Talking about your program, your wonderful goals of trying to reduce multidimensional poverty in your communities. We wish you the very best, Jill, and we look forward to hearing all about the project soon.
Thank you so much, Veena. I'm excited to continue the discussions in September. Thanks for having me.